Hello and welcome to my DDD Island teaser. My name is Ben Hall and I will be presenting the session Red-Green Refactor. So this session is all about getting started with unit testing and test-driven development. So test-driven development is becoming more mainstream and more important for developers to understand. But what actually is TDD? Well, very simply, it's about creating a test which defines how the code should work before actually writing the code. So let's have a quick demo of this. So I've created two class libraries. One will contain our production code and one will contain all of our tests. So to create a test, we can come in and add a reference to a unit testing framework. I'm going to be using NUnit. And next we can come in and add a reference to our production code. So next we need to add a class. And this class is going to be testing a class in the production code called Login Manager. So I'm going to call this Login Manager Tests, just to help with managing the tests. So now we've got this, I can create a method, and I'm going to be testing a method called Login User on the Login Manager object, and I'm going to provide this with some valid credentials, and I expect a user object to be returned. And now we can actually write the test to ensure that the system works as we expect. So I'm going to create a Login Manager. And on this, I'm going to call a method called LoginUser, and I'm going to provide it with two strings. One's going to be the username, and the other is going to be the password. And this method should return a user object. And then just to see if it works successfully, I'm going to do an assert that this object is not null. And if it is null, I'm just going to say user object null. So next I need to add a reference to NUnit, and so NUnit can actually reference this, you need to add a test fixture attribute to the top of our class and make the class public, and then add a test attribute to the top of the method we want NUnit to treat as a test. Next we need to create the method which we want to test, and it returns the user object called LoginUser, and the first string is called username, and the second string is the password. So if we can compile, and that compiles, and using testdriven.net, we can come in, right click on our test code solution, go test with NUnit, and this loads up the NUnit user interface. We can click run, and the bar has gone red, indicating the test failed, and then we've got a message underneath saying that a system not implemented exception was thrown. So now we've got this, we can come back and in our code we can actually write the implementation. So I'm just going to do a string comparison to ensure that everything's correct. Do a quick recompile, and in the NUnit user interface click run again, and this time the bar's gone green, indicating that the code works and the test passes successfully. However, my session will discuss more than this and go into much more depth. So instead of this code, what happens if the code we're trying to implement looks something more like this, where we've got validation, and then we've got it talking to a data layer, and underneath that data layer performs a link to SQL query and hits the database to ensure the username and password are correct. And in my session I'll be talking about how we can take this into account and how we can still test successfully. So what will I be discussing? Well, to start, I'll give an introduction into unit testing and test-driven development. I'll then move on to how mock objects can make your life easier and your test more reliable, and then I'll guide you through the potential pitfalls of test-driven development and how you can ensure that your system is testable and that your tests remain reliable over the lifetime of the project. So thanks for watching, and I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone at DDD Island.